There's a conspiracy for mediocrity in the world. And conspiracy for mediocrity is gross materialism, which leads to greed, personal power over people. That world of appearance does exist. However, when one is able to normalize a level of peace within their own soul, and peace is not the absence of conflict, peace is the dynamic of harmonizing good, it's real. And what happens is there is a safety that surrounds you, and there is openings that take place. You begin to see opportunities and possibilities, not in the world of polarization, but in the what I call the real world.
We're living during a tense time right now where there's a lot of rhetoric that's fueling division, polarization, and emotional contagion.
Emotions can be contagious. Deep feeling tones can be contagious. And so we must have a level of some spiritual practice and intentionality. We have to have a context by which we view life. And life itself is never contradicting or compromising itself. Life itself doesn't work against itself, whether you call that the universal presence, the universe, the presence of God. It doesn't matter what name you put there, but it doesn't work against itself. It's always unfolding and evolving to express more of itself. True joy and happiness is not coming from manifesting of things. It comes from your own unfoldment and being yourself.
Yeah.
The things do come, but they're not coming to make you happy. They're coming just to make your life easier to do what you were called to do.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the upcoming launch of my new book titled The Nomadic Soul, a seeker's guide to finding a sense of self and belonging in the modern world, which highlights a profound yet often unexplored part of your identity that holds the key to everything from answering your biggest questions to finding deeper meaning and joy in everyday life. Visit thenomadicsoulbook.com to learn more, download a free chapter, or to buy a copy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dreamcatcher Podcast, a place where your dreams can find a voice. I'm your host, Celine Chenoy. Thank you to all of you who return every week to tune in to become a better version of yourself. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already, and rate our show if you enjoyed this episode. We are all on a journey to creating the life we truly want. Manifesting is the act of purposefully planting the thoughts and visions of our desired life into our subconscious, which helps activate various brain networks to function together in harmony. Many of us struggle with this process and face different internal and external obstacles. My guest, Michael Bernard Beckwith, believes we can rise above these hurdles by elevating our spiritual awareness. He's here to share his wisdom and deep insights with us. Michael Bernard Beckwith is an internationally renowned spiritual teacher, award-winning author, and founder of the Agape International Spiritual Center, a trans-denominational spiritual community with a congregation of over 9,000 members. He has appeared on Dr. Oz, The Oprah Show, Larry King Live, and his own PBS Special, The Answer Is You, spreading his message to millions of people. He also participated alongside the Dalai Lama and other New Thought ministers in the Synthesis Dialogues. In this interview, Reverend Michael will explore a range of principles, concepts, and common misconceptions about manifestation and the law of attraction. He will share a framework he developed that emphasizes pure instinct and inspiration rather than just goal setting and visualization. This approach leads to a more profound awakening and helps us align more closely with our true essence. Hello, Reverend Michael. How are you doing today?
I am outstanding. It's a great day. I'm alive. I'm awake. I'm aware. What more can I ask for except for more unfolding of myself?
Yeah, absolutely. It's truly an honor to have you here on the show. Your work has been pivotal in my spiritual journey, and I am absolutely sure that that's the case for countless others. From your teachings on manifestations, from The Secret to your framework centered on the 4 stages of spiritual development, all of that has really created paradigm shifts in my perspective on life and my role within it. So I just want to start by thanking you for that.
Oh, thank you very much. I can remember when a lot of those things emerged from me. And I can remember some of the exact places where the 4 stages emerged. And it just seemed to create a context for spiritual growth. So thank you and how it's impacted you.
So, Reverend Michael, you've been doing this work and you've been guiding people for almost 3 decades. And I'm curious to know, what does it feel like to be seen as a seer, a guide, and someone who's just been leading people and offering them hope and inspiration? What does it feel like to be in that position?
Thank you. First of all, it's been 4 decades
4 decades.
that,
Okay.
that I've been teaching, and it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like a long time. Every day is very fresh. It's very new for me. I'm constantly in beginner's mind, it is very childlike, open state. So when I hear myself even saying that, I've been teaching over 40 years. It it's amazing to me. What if I feel like every year I just feel like I'm more me. I don't feel like a drudgery of teaching for 40 years. I feel like I'm always on the verge of new insight or new ways that come to me to articulate the perennial religion, the ageless teachings. So, in short, I would just say I just feel good. I feel good. I'm now at a place where when I go out to speak around the world, people like yourself come up to me and tell me their testimonies of healing or revelations they've had based on seeing me somewhere on a podcast or at Agape or whatever the case may be. So I'm getting a lot of feedback, a really positive feedback. And I just feel like I said yes to my Dharma. And because I've said yes, I just have a deep sense of joy about being. Yeah.
Yeah, and that definitely comes through. You have this calmness and this presence that is very comforting, and that certainly comes through when I watch your videos and your courses. So,
Thank you very much. I live in a place where whatever the challenge is, you're not gonna sidestep challenges in the human condition. But I just live in this sweet spot of knowing that everything is unfolding okay, everything is unfolding magnificently, everything's going to be okay. I already live there in whatever's going on, so I'm not really deterred by the opportunities for growth that come up. So it's a sweet spot within my soul.
yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people are trying to achieve right now. I mean, we're living during really a tense time right now, with everything going in the US and also other parts of the world where there's a lot of rhetoric that's fueling division, polarization, and blame. So, how do we recognize this? Because I know you talk a lot about contagion and emotional contagion. How can we be aware of its impact on us and protect ourselves from all of this hysteria that's going on?
Yeah, it's a great question. And emotions can be contagious. And uplifting, affirmative, deep feeling tones can be contagious, as well as fear and doubt and worry and anxiousness and anxiety. That can be normalized as well and become kind of a contagion, which we do see in the world of appearances. It's propagated on the news cycles. There's always something leading and about something negative. And so we must have a level of some spiritual practice and intentionality, or even to go broader than that, we have to have a context by which we view life. And life itself is never contradicting or compromising itself. Life itself doesn't work against itself, whether you call that the universal presence, the universe, the presence of God. It doesn't matter what name you put there, but it doesn't work against itself. It's always unfolding and evolving to express more of itself. So that's what's going on at the meta level, at the macro level. And so at the micro level, there are there's the condensation of thoughts and beliefs, perceptions and points of view that become the world of experience. So that world is the world of phenomena. It's always changing, but it's always evolving. So whenever there's a tremendous amount of chaos in a universe, this is not a diverse, it's a universe. It means that there's another level of order trying to emerge. And so when individuals involve themselves in some level of spiritual practice via meditation, via affirmative prayer, sacred service, things of this particular nature, you're able to feel into the underlying order that's always there, even though it's not apparent. And then that begins to be where you live vibrationally. You see what's going on in the world, but you're not participating in it emotionally. And because you're vibrating at a higher level, you're able to do what's appropriate in the moment to respond to what you see in the world. And what's born out of that is compassion, forgiveness, kindness. And so an individual that's caught up in some kind of contagion, if they've fallen off of kindness, if they've fallen off of love, if they've fallen off of peace, that means their mind has been hijacked by contagion. And their mind is opinionated with some position, and they're caught up in it, and their ego is fighting for it. That means they've gone unconscious from their true nature. And so when I look out upon the world, I don't see good and evil. I see mature and immature. People that are very immature, caught up in contagion, see a sense of separation. And when one begins to mature, which means at some level you have an intention to grow spiritually. You have an intention to become more of your authentic self. You have an intention to wake up. When that becomes a predominant intention, you're now becoming a mature human being. Before that, you're an immature human being. You're not evil necessarily, even though people do destructive things, but you're immature. And so with that larger context of life and a little bit of spiritual practice, we can navigate through the world of appearances and do what is appropriate moment by moment and actually mature.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
So what I'm
there's a
hearing you
lot
say is having that self-awareness and
yeah.
knowing when that actually happens and having those spiritual practices to anchor you and keep you in that high vibration so that you recognize when that kind of energy comes into your being, or at least is trying to.
Yeah, absolutely. This average person is they're unconscious to a degree, you see, and they're producing thought forms. But the thought forms are emanating from a perception of separation. So they're lower frequency thought forms, but they still manifest as opinions, points of view, and perceptions that create experience. So an individual that's vibrating the vibration of love or kindness or unity, they're obtaining inspiration from the divine mind, so to speak. And they're way more powerful than the individuals that are vibrating at a lower frequency. Even if they're in a minority, they're still way more powerful because the thoughts are oscillating at a very much higher level. So small groups of people around the world that are waking up can actually affect the collective, you see. So when people get together and meditate, they get together, they have vision talk or whatever the case may be, they're affecting the collective. And I think that instead of being fearful about what we see from the sense of separation, the polarization, we have to come together as we're doing in this moment and affect the collective by a much more affirmative vibrational frequency emanating from us. And life continues to evolve, unfold through those groups of people. It doesn't happen through the political system necessarily, because a lot of politicians are self-serving, or the lobbyists have bought them already. And so it's going to come through people that are waking up. That's where the evolution happens.
Yeah, that definitely does make a lot of sense. But I think that we also live in a world that is largely driven by people who are influenced by their ego and this kind of need for power. And sometimes it can be hard to survive in a world like that, where there is competition, where there are people who are kind of cutthroat and they're not loving, they're not kind. They're like, hey, we just want to get to the top and we'll walk all over you if we need to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
staying in that vibration of love can be challenging when you're out in the real world. What do you tell people when they ask you for advice when they're dealing with situations like that?
Absolutely. That's a great question, because there's a conspiracy for mediocrity in the world, and you just described it. The conspiracy for mediocrity is gross materialism, which leads to greed, personal power over people, things of that particular nature. That's a conspiracy for mediocrity, and that world of appearance does exist. However, when one is able to normalize a level of peace within their own soul, and peace is not like the absence of conflict. Peace is a dynamic. Peace is the dynamic of harmonizing good. It's real. And what happens is there is a safety that surrounds you, and there is openings that take place. You begin to see opportunities and possibilities, not in the world of polarization, but in what I call the real world. The real world is the world that's vibrating at a very high frequency. You start to live in a different place, and now you're available to guidance that moves you to act appropriately within that field of negativity. So yeah, there are unconscious, immature, cutthroat, egotistical people in the world. They are immature. They are the babies of the planet. They are the infants that haven't grown up yet. And their ego is wanting personal power. They are the babies of the planet. And so when we vibrate higher and are able to sustain it, it's not just a one-off, but we have a practice that sustains it. There is a kind of a field around us that protects us from that energy, but also guides us and directs us as to how to operate in that world, what to do, where to turn left when it seems logical to turn right. We live in the area of synchronicity, of serendipity, of spontaneous goodness. There's a different frequency, and it's real. Now, I think everyone has had moments where suddenly they had an aha, or something just came together and they didn't know why it came together. They were safe. They didn't know why they were safe. That was what I call an accidental alignment. You suddenly got into the vibration, but now we have to do it consciously every single day. So when I go out into the world, I'm very aware that there are people out there that do harm to other people.
Yeah, you got to protect yourself. Like, you don't want to be naive, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, you want to be what is called consciously naive. That is,
I like that. Consciously
you want to be
naive.
aware. Consciously naive is an awareness that there really is. You really do have a superpower, and there really is a presence that's so real. And you're naive enough to believe in it, and then to feel your way into it, and it protects, it guides, it's like my daughter was driving home from some event with her friend, and as she was going across the street, this big Mack truck flew through the stop sign, and this invisible hand came and put it over her chest and over her friend's chest. It went whoop like that. So they didn't go crashing through the window and stop the car, and the Mack truck flew by,
Wow.
So now she has this awareness that she's protected. It's kind of built into her from that experience. Sometimes she interprets it as her mother, who passed over a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
or not,
Yeah.
But I think every single being on the planet has had a moment where they got real. They were able to see something they normally can't see. The idea is for us to have a practice so that world becomes more real to us. Yeah.
And what kind of practices do you recommend? What are the top ones that you would recommend for people?
Well, obviously, meditation is fundamental. Even if the person does it a few minutes every day before they leave their home, I call it taking an inner shower. It's like people get ready to go to work and they'll brush their teeth, wash their face, they'll take a shower externally, but they won't take an inner shower, which means to clear the dust and the grit from your mind so that you start to feel the presence of safety, of well-being, of prosperity, of wholeness. You start to feel it in meditation. So when you go outside the home, you're not taking your anxiety, you're actually taking possibility. So meditation is important. And then there's a law that states that, the universe will answer any question that you ask. And many people live chronically in a question that's disabilitating. They'll live in the question of, well, what's wrong? Who's to blame? What next bad thing is going to happen? They'll live in that kind of question, and the universe will answer it for you. They'll show you, And so I teach people to ask an empowering question. What good is here that I presently can't see? Because most of us look through life through the sensorium, only through the five senses, you see. So we're only seeing what we see with the senses is an artifact of a previously held point of view. So past thoughts, opinions, and points of view and perceptions have produced the world that we can see. So the world that we can see is the past. It's an artifact. So we have to ask ourselves, what good is here right now? What opportunity is here right now? What great possibility is here right now that I can't see with my eyes? And then when you ask that question, the universal presence starts to activate your spiritual faculty and you start to see differently. It's just like, I was watching something recently where an individual was talking to a woman and saying, I've never seen this magical being of presence that's everywhere, it's invisible, but how do I know it exists, And the woman goes on to tell him, well, this worm can't see, but you can see all the light around the worm. The worm doesn't have the capacity to see it. Unless you mutate the worm to a degree, then suddenly the worm can see the light everywhere. Well, through our prayer, meditation, and spiritual practice, we become mutants. We transform, and now we can see what we previously couldn't see with the eyes. So if you ask an empowering question, your spiritual faculties will become more activated, and you're not just living in 3D. You're not just living with your five senses. You're actually activating your awareness that allows you to see without eyes and to hear without ears. That sounds far off, but I'm telling you, it is not. If a person spent just a little bit of time every day doing a little bit of meditation, take one empowering question and ask it for 7 days. What good is here that I presently can't see? Your inner faculty will change and you will get a glimpse, and then that glimpse will last longer, and then you'll see life differently. Instead of trying to change the world, we're trying to, what I say, serve an emerging paradigm through right sight. And so this is what spiritual practice does. It's not going to change the world, but it's going to change us. And then we live in a different world. And then what happens? We bring that world into time and space, and it looks like the world is changing. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, it does. I actually have some of those questions on a Post-it note on my desk. So I always so it keeps that on top of mind to ask myself those questions, and so that I can actually see that in my daily life and put me in that frame of mind that you speak about.
Absolutely.
So, Reverend Michael, what about the, deeper parts of it, like the subconscious beliefs that can sabotage us, like, unresolved issues, inner child issues, those deeper wounded parts of ourselves that can get activated and kind of throw us off when we're trying to transform our life and really get into that visioning practice that you speak about.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone has been initiated into the human experience with some wound. Somebody disappointed you. I mean, we've all been imprinted, and that imprint has become subjective. So it's become a part of our subjective consciousness. So it's become like a law that just kind of shows up as sabotaging ourselves or a lack of self-love. It's definitely there. So we have to embrace it. When we're doing our spiritual work, it does surface. And it definitely surfaced intensely when we're about to make a breakthrough. So whenever we're about to, now how does that work? The egoic aspect of us, which is there to protect this identity that we think we are, whenever we seek to go into the realm of the unknown, which is where our goodies are, which is a greater expression of who we are, is in the realm of the unknown, the unresolved stuff comes up. The ego presents it to us to keep us scared and small to stay in the known. So that's one thing that's happening. The other thing that's happening is that those wounds become triggers. So when something happens in the external world, something that disappoints us or shocks us, it triggers us and we react to the world. We react, we become triggered and we say things we don't want to say, we do things we don't want to do because it's the emotions just taking over. And so we have to find a way to, when that begins to happen, we train ourselves, first of all, not to say anything. Because first we want to just vent it out. We want to react and give as good as we get. So first we train ourselves not to say anything. We just, and there's the trigger. Okay. And then secondly, we begin to notice our breath. It's probably very shallow. And we start to breathe. And then we embrace the mud, the gunk. We embrace whatever that emotion is. It's not bigger than us. We're bigger than it. We're a spiritual being. The emotion that is the condensation of chronic thoughts, woundedness, etc. It's smaller than we are. So we learn to embrace it. So sometimes what I'll have people do is like go within and actually bring up whatever that emotion is. It's self-loathing, lack of a self-love, fear, whatever the emotion is. And close your eyes and look at it and then be aware of how it feels. Don't try to resist it or make it go away. Just look at it. And then as you start to breathe, become aware that your awareness is expanding. You're becoming bigger and bigger, and you're bigger than the emotion. Now, what happens is we all know about what is called the observer effect. The observer effect says that whatever you observe changes on a subatomic level just based on observation, nothing else, just observation. You observe something, it changes it. Now, if you add an intention to observation, I'm intending to be bigger than this issue. I'm intending to grow into my greater yet to be as I'm observing this emotion that's there. Then it changes on a subatomic level. It begins to disintegrate. It begins to re-qualify. It changes because thoughts, as you know, is energy, and energy is never created or destroyed. It just changes frequency. So when you're able to watch it, it changes. And after a while, it starts to lose its power. You find that the trigger is gone, you see. And you're actually evoking a very great cosmic awareness once you have the ability to look at yourself, look at your thoughts, look at your emotions, look at your feelings without interfering. What happens? You become aware that your awareness itself. And all of this stuff is passing through your awareness, but it's not your identity. And so what happens? It starts to unhook itself from your subconscious. And now your subconscious is more about growth and unfoldment. It's more about expansion of awareness. You start to grow even when you sleep because your subconscious mind, you're more interested in your own growth than trying to change a circumstance, you see. And doesn't happen overnight, obviously.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is
Of course, it takes
this is
work. Yeah.
this is where I call it work play, work play.
Wordplay.
Yeah, because you want to be like a child, like an experiment. You're playing, but you're working. So it's not drudgery. Oh, I got to do this. It's you make it like a game, like fun. Oh, I'm watching this. Ooh, it's nasty. Ooh, it feels bad. You're watching it.
Yeah,
Getting bigger and bigger relatively
absolutely.
to your big.
I love
Yeah.
that. Actually, it reminds me of a term you coined called blisscipline. I absolutely love it, and I think it's so effective because it removes the baggage that often comes with the word discipline. So I'd love for you to tell us more about what blisscipline is and what that entails.
Yeah, that came to me a number of years ago. I was giving a talk, and it just emerged out of me as I was describing what happens when you have a level of commitment, authentic commitment that develops into a discipline. And the word discipline means disciple. A disciple is someone who loves something. If a disciple wants to play music on the piano, they love music. If a disciple it wants to be an athletic champion, they love the sport. So the origin, even discipline, is love. And so, as one becomes disciplined in whatever it is you love, something happens, and the love of it calls you to do it, and it becomes a blisscipline. You activate even the chemicals in your body become more tonic when you think about, oh, I'm going to go practice. I'm going to go practice the piano. I'm going to practice meditation. I'm going to practice, whatever it is that I love. And so what came out of my mouth was you become blissciplinarians. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I never used that word before until now. You know,
You're hearing it here
it's,
first.
yeah. So it's a blisscipline rather than
Yeah.
the negative connotation, as you said, of discipline, which seems like obligation and I got to do it. No, when I sit to meditate, I'm loving. I love it. I love to
Hmm.
sit. You see? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I have a confession to make. So when Secret came out, I was one of the skeptics because everyone who was watching it, I felt that they were driven by more, I don't know, questionable motives because they started using the secret as a way to just manifest more stuff for themselves. And
True.
I felt like somehow they were taking the wrong approach. And something in me didn't feel like I was in alignment with its message. But then as I started learning more about manifestation from, masters like yourself, I realized that, that was their way of interpreting the teachings of the secret. And I've started to make more peace with it and I see the value in it right now. So what do you have to say to people who you feel who kind of get the whole message of the secret? They may be getting it wrong. What do you have to say to
Well,
people like that?
secret was what I call a Trojan horse,
Okay.
sneaking into society to get people to think about the fact that their destiny is not controlled by external circumstances, but by themselves, their own beliefs, their own thinking, their own perceptions, etc. So people got snagged by materialism. You can manifest this, you can get that. So it just met groups of people where they were, and then people were at that level. But so many people that got initiated into that to the secret then began to grow and realize, oh, that's just a starter kit. That's just the beginning of one
It's
spiritual
101.
practice. Yeah, it's just, again, it goes back to my four stages. That's the beginning of stage two, where you're just learning how to manifest and you're learning that there's a law in the universe and this law responds to your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts, and ultimately your beliefs. But ultimately, as you continue to do the work, you go to a next stage. So it met people at the beginning of stage two to say, listen, you can assist in determining your own destiny. Yeah, you're going to probably get caught up. Some people are going to get caught up in materialism. They're going to, but what happens? People get sick and tired of that. Okay, I got another bag, I got another purse, I got another whatever they're trying to get,
Yeah.
and it doesn't bring permanent happiness, when you get some of these things, you get a fleeting little bit of happiness for a moment. Oh, I manifested this, But after a while, people begin to understand that true joy and happiness is not coming from manifesting of things. It comes from your own unfoldment and being yourself.
Yeah.
And the things do come, but they're not coming to make you happy. They're coming just to make your life easier to do what you were called to do. Yeah. So I call it a Trojan horse. And I remember I was for being in it. And I just laughed, because a lot of the people that criticized me, I said to them, I said, you've been teaching this stuff for 20, 30 years. You never did a movie. Why not? Why are you criticizing this person who pulled us together to do this movie when you could have been doing this? And you're probably upset because you're not in the movie,
Yeah.
But when you go back to the genesis of the movie itself, Rhonda Byrne, she was in her 50s. Her dad had just died. Her husband, they went through a divorce. Something happened in her business. She was a filmmaker and she didn't have any money. So she had the three things going on. Her daughter gave her this book with the spiritual principles in it. And she was upset that she had lived 50 years and had never known these teachings. So she got enthused and excited to do a movie. And she called all of these spiritual teachers that she respected and put this movie together, which has touched millions of people, and initiated millions of people onto their spiritual path. So when people would criticize it, I just kind of laugh and say, hey, it was a beginning step. You don't curse the stairs because you now have an elevator,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, there's definitely a lot of good that came from it. People put in a different space of hope, and that they felt that they could actually aspire to a better future. And I think that's wonderful. That the essence of your message was powerful, but just the fact that it seemed a bit simplistic and think a lot about it and it'll suddenly appear.
They oversimplified it.
They oversimplified it. Yeah.
That's what movies do.
That's what movies do. Yeah. Yeah. But don't get me wrong. I think there was a lot of value in The Secret for sure. And I'm sure a lot of people will agree with me on that. But I feel like now
I have my own critique about it.
I feel like the social media has that sort of impact on the youth these days, and it's making them want to aim for fame versus effectiveness.
Yes.
You have concerns about the impact of
Yes.
the media on younger people right now, and what advice do you have for them and for parents or caretakers?
Absolutely. I call that the conspiracy for mediocrity. The conspiracy for mediocrity is gross materialism and the fame game. Those are two main culprits. Little kids growing up wanting to be famous, wanting to be a celebrity, and forgetting what celebrity even means. The word celebrity means somebody is celebrated for excellence, but they want fame without necessarily discipline of having a great skill.
Yeah.
And so social media has hijacked the minds of many people. They become addicted to it, and they become addicted to the hits that they're getting. If somebody likes something they say, and then people are saying things just to get hits, not even to up level or to inspire. So I think we're at a point now where we see the benefit of it: inspiration, education, knowledge, community, and then we see the downside of it, which is hijacking people into greater polarization, the fame game, gross materialism, get rich quick schemes, things of that particular nature. And what has happened is that kind of stuff has always been here, but now it's amplified through social media. And I think that a lot of parents now are absolutely creating a time where the kids can only be on social media for particular periods of time, like our parents used to do us with television. You can watch 1 hour of television, but you have to do your homework, you have to do your chores or whatever. The television was limited. You couldn't just sit around and watch television all day, you
Mhm.
know. So I think a lot of parents are now stepping up and saying, you know what, you can use your go on social media that I approve, for this period of time, but after that you can't do it. So I think that there was a moment where it seemed innocuous, so it just ran amok. Kids, I mean, little kids having mobile phones and going
Yes,
on, which is dangerous for the radiation to go into their brain as well. The
absolutely.
undeveloped brain structure, being all this radiation going into their body is not safe either. So I think society is waking up to the dangers of it, and regulation on the parental side so the kid doesn't become an addict. And there probably needs some regulation on the manufacturer side so that what's built into the mobile phones is the protection from the radiation. Rather than having to go buy something to put it on your phone, it should be built in. It should be built in. And what's interesting about that is that there was a law being passed for that to happen, and the mobile phone lobbyists overrode the law so they wouldn't have to do it. They spent more money blocking the law rather than just retrofitting. And so again, the greed game. It's a mediocre, childish way of being. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice. So monitor their screen time, limit it, and I mean that's what parents
We
can
should
do,
do the same
right?
thing as adults.
As
We
adults,
should.
I know, I know.
I don't. My phone is not in my room when I go to sleep. It's
Yeah.
if I need an alarm, it's in the other room, but I can still hear the alarm if I need an alarm.
Okay.
I'll scan it, any emergencies. Okay, then I put it away because I don't want that in my room, at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Robert Michael, one last question. I'm curious. You've met all kinds of people in your career for 4 decades. You've met famous people, you met not so famous people. Is there a common thread you've seen amongst everyone that you've met?
In terms of those who have celebrity, you mean, or just people?
I mean, I'm saying you've met a variety of people, people who are
Yeah.
famous, people who are not so famous, people who are wealthy, people who are not so wealthy. So you have this perspective, unique perspective being in the position that you are in. So are there any commonalities that you've seen, regardless of, all these differentiators?
The commonality is that everyone that I meet at bottom, they want themselves, their family, their kids to have the basic essentials to live a good life. Everybody seems to want that. There's no one like born a hater. No one's born a racist. You know what I mean? A bigot or something. Those things are learned from society and the people, how individuals are socialized. But I've met, I've worked and met with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Nelson Mandela, Bishop Tutu, Dick Gregory. I met Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when I was a little boy.
Oh, did you?
And
Oh, okay.
yes, now I'm the counselor to his family. I'm to his son and his
Wow.
granddaughter. You know, um, so
Yeah.
I've met a lot of people, and I work with a lot of people
Hmm.
that are making a difference on the planet. And the ones that are matured, I'll use the word driven, but they're not driven. They're pulled by a vision of a world that works for everyone. So the
Hmm.
people that I mentioned, they want joy and happiness and all needs met for everyone, not just for themselves and just for their family. And I think that when we mature, that seeps into our thinking, our way of being. We meet in a universal brotherhood and sisterhood, a universal humanhood. But even the worst people, I've counseled some people that, you know, were very immature. Let me say that, some of them are in the news, and they had gotten caught in their ego of fame or money, and but even if you bring up their kids, they soften up. They become like
Mm.
little kids. They want their kids to be safe, to go to good schools, to have what they need. So there's a little good in the worst person, and there's a little bad in the best person. you know. And but I think when you look upon all the people on the planet, Everyone wants their family to be taken care of. They want water, they want clothing, they want shelter, they want food, they want the opportunity to succeed in life. And so it's common to everyone. And sometimes their urge gets warped by the things that are unresolved. What I teach is this: every urge that does not fulfill itself in a universal outlet is incomplete. So we have these urges, but it must have a universal outlet. For instance, it's okay to be prosperous, but the universal outlet is generosity. It's okay to be healthy, but the universal outlet is that we use our health to actually share our gifts, talents, expand our capacity to make a contribution to the planet. Sex is good if it has a universal outlet of intimacy and love and caring. So none of the urges are bad. They're just incomplete unless they have a universal outlet. See, so that goes back to my point. I see mature people and I see immature people. Immature people, they have the same urges, but the outlet isn't universal. The people that are mature, they have the same urges, but the outlet is more universal. You see, there's kindness, there's compassion, there's generosity, there's creativity. Creativity leads out, universal outlet is beauty and order, symmetry, you see, usefulness. So that's kind of where I live.
Well, Reverend Michael, thank you so much for making time to be here with all of us and sharing your valuable insights. Your thoughts have truly illuminated the paths that we can take to grow and become wiser and better every day. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Hey, it's my joy. This is the dream catcher, yes?
The dream catcher, yes. And I'm Celine.
Yes. Yes, I know who you are. Yeah, I have a dream catcher right inside this room right here.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of, one of
Yeah.
my one of my Peruvian brothers, shaman, made it for me, and it's out there. And
Oh, wow. Wow. So I'm sure it carries very beautiful energy.
yes, yes, yes. So we celebrate the dream. We at Agape International, we celebrate you, Celine. We celebrate the dream catcher and all the people that you're teaching and inspiring. And
Thank
thank you
you.
for the invitation to be with you today.
Absolutely. My pleasure. And I just want to let our listeners know very quickly, if you don't know about Reverend Michael Beckwith and his amazing books, his best-selling books, his podcast, his events, his courses, please be sure to check his website, michaelbeckwith.com. The link will be in the description as usual.